Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Medical Research with Mohan. I am Dr. Mohan Raj Sharma and today's topic for presentation is PowerPoint magic, how to captivate your audience with your presentation. In this video, I'll describe tips and tips of making engaging presentation, and I'll help you navigate design choices based on where and to whom you are presenting along with real world examples. This is the learning pyramid developed by National Learning Laboratories. It shows the degree of retention by the audience based on the mode of delivery of the information. The PowerPoint presentation falls under the audio-visual mode, and no matter how excellent your presentation is, the audience is able to retain 20% of what you say. So it is extremely important to make a good presentation. The fundamental principles of PowerPoint presentation are these. It is a type of communication, and after any communication or delivery of a message, there are certain possible outcomes like this. The message is heard or seen but not understood. The message is misperceived. The meaning is accurately perceived and remembered. And three plus changes in the attitude of the listeners, meaning that after your presentation you are able to effect a change in the attitude of the listener. So first two are not your goal, and if possible four should be your ultimate goal of presentation, but you should at least have goal number three achieved at the end of your presentation. Briefly about the history, around 15,000 BC, humans started to do cave painting to communicate. And in 35 to 3000 BC, mural and hieroglyphs, a type of pictorial writing, were developed to communicate with each other. And after a long hiatus in 1653, blackboard was discovered, and then the communication was done via that mode. In 1945, overhead projector was developed. 1950 was the beginning of the slide projector, and with the advent of PowerPoint in 1987, everything else has almost become obsolete. Now, with this background, let's go to the topic per se. Why should we need a good presentation? These are the reasons. This is a part of a scientific professional life. If you are a scientist, you are a professor, or in academic faculty, or private practitioner, you need to do your presentation at some point in your life. So it is extremely essential to know the art of presentation. And more specifically, you want people to understand your work, be interested in your work, and think you are great. These three things should be enough motivating factors for you to make good presentation. So these two quotations are very relevant here. The one is by George Bernard Shaw. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And by Ben Johnson, to speak and to speak well are two things. We need to remember this while we make the presentation. There are many books dedicated to how to make a great presentation. These are useful, but so will be this YouTube video. But the most important thing is practice. Let's start with your commitment. This Jenkins Lloyd Jones famously said that a speech is a solemn responsibility. The man who makes a bad 30-minute speech to 200 people wastes only a half hour of his time, but 100 hours of others' time, which should be a hanging offense. So true. You need to do enough preparation to make the presentation good. Agreeing to give a scientific talk means a commitment to the audience, which should involve proper preparation and effective delivery. And these are the two things I'll be discussing in this presentation. Talking about the human fear, public speaking tops the list among all other. People are more worried about speaking in front of people rather than death. So this is very interesting thing. And another, some report says that when you go to the podium to speak, you lose around 10 to 20% of your IQ because of some degree of nervousness. So to overcome this, you need to do periodic presentation in conferences that will help you recover from this stage fright. So, what are the components of a good presentation? There are four components. First is the content, second is structure, fourth packaging, and fifth is human element attached. So, about content is you should have adequate information. If you don't have much information, so no matter how well you structure it or package it, nobody is going to take you serious. So you should have some substance to deliver. Second is structure. It should be well sequenced with a good beginning, middle, and end. And packaging should also be done well. Audience is at the mercy of a presenter. If your presentation is very boring, then either they will leave the hall or they will start yawning or looking at their mobile, which will not be a great thing. Regarding the human element, it also contributes whether your presentation is going to be entertaining and educational or boring. So once you have committed that you will do the presentation, you have to ask these questions to yourself and get satisfactory answer. How much time is allotted for your presentation? At what point is your talk? If your talk is after lunch or in a very humid environment, nobody is going to listen to you. A hot, tired, and hungry audience will not absorb your presentation. What are the size and layout of the presentation room? That also you need to know. And is the program on one discipline or multidisciplinary? If it is in one discipline, then there is a chance that there will be a lot of overlap in the content, and you have to be careful about what you say. Or are others also talking on the same topic? If everybody is talking about brain ABM, then you can skip many things in the beginning of your presentation. So all these things matter before you make the content of your presentation. Next question you should ask is, what is the purpose of your presentation to the audience? Is it to inform them or to instruct them, to persuade them or entertain them? What kind of content you choose and how you package depends on your indication of the presentation that you need to know. And knowing your audience is also very important. Who are you? That you need to define. Why are you there? That also needs to be answered. And why are they there? What is their level of education and what is the purpose of them coming to listen to you? Because your level of preparation and the suitability of your content depends on their level and their interest. And another thing, what is the audience's attitude towards you? Some people can be very hostile, like in cross debate kind of presentation. When you favor certain kind of treatment and there are argument against that treatment, then you have to be very careful. If you are presenting in front of your resident, then their attitude is going to be almost 100% positive toward you. So extremely important to know the audience attitude beforehand. Now let's talk about the content. The hallmark of any success is clarity. You need to be clear about what you are going to deliver. But clarity doesn't just come from nowhere. The clarity comes when you are familiar with the subject matter and confident in your research. So two things are the prerequisite for your clarity, and it must be well organized and logically structured, as said earlier. And normally, in any presentation, there is an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. These three things should be kept in mind. Another thing is you have to use concise language. Don't make the audience struggle to understand you. This should be always in your mind. Regarding the information overload, this is the very beautifully set thali, and too much food is there. So no matter how delicious the every item is, you just cannot take it. Same thing happens with the information you deliver to your audience. No matter how important you think you are talking, groundbreaking research, there is a limit how much the audience can receive it. And this is beautifully said by Winston Churchill, the former prime minister. This report, by its very length, defends itself against the risk of being read. How beautifully said. And you have to always remember these things. About the attitude, Are you thorough in your topic? If you are not happy with the topic and you are not confident what you are saying, then your presentation is not going to be good. So if you are not, then probably you try to get a different topic where you have confidence. If you are if yes or forced to do one, sometimes if you are a junior faculty or a resident, then you may not have choice, then you have to master it. So you give more time, master the topic, but there is no excuse for not adequately preparing. Are you excited about your presentation? If you are not yourself excited, how can you expect others to be excited and very attentive to your presentation? Now, what I have noticed is most people have difficulty in starting the presentation. They have got a lot of content to say. And this quote here by Stephen Byrne is very appropriate. I am rather like a mosquito in a nudist camp. I know what I ought to do, but I don't know where to begin. The job of the mosquito is to bite, but every part of the body is exposed and the mosquito is contained. And so will a novice researcher or novice presenter can be. Do not use excessive or flowery introduction at the beginning of your presentation. And all you need to do is chairman or chairperson or simply the chair of the meeting, and ladies and gentlemen should be sufficient. If there are too many dignitaries and if we start reciting everybody's name, then half of the time allotted to you will just go like that. And second thing you need to do, you have to captivate the audience psychologically with first few introductory slides. This is where whether you are going to hook the audience up or not depends. The examples would be recounting of an interesting case story, posing of a question, or presenting a shocking statistics or picture. The example will be if we are going to talk on trauma. This is very famous during the Dasai festival in Nepal, in usually in the remote part, and many people, many especially children, fall from these and sustain fracture. So you can just display this picture and say the fracture factory. This could be one example. Another, burn. If we are going to talk about on burnout among doctors, this is one of the, the newspaper cut out. Five doctors ended up in psychiatric ward because of the mental illness. This could be a very sensational thing to start if we are going to talk about burnout among doctors. If you have been invited to talk on floods, we recently had a huge flood problem in Kathmandu, and this picture was taken some years ago. I unfortunately do not have the source to mention it. And one person is walking on the railing, and you start like narrowest bridge in Kathmandu. This should be a shocking statistics or very interesting slide to start your presentation on floods. So there are many more things you can do to start your presentation, either with a picture or shocking statistics or anything that attracts audience's attention. Next thing, let's talk about the spelling and grammar. You see here, anything that is projected on the screen looks terrible if it's wrong. So, how smart will people think you are depends on how careful you are on spelling and grammar. You always need to proof your slides for spelling mistakes, use of repeated words, or grammatical errors that you might have made. Remember, all these look terrible when projected on screen, I just said earlier. And always have someone check your presentation. When you make the presentation, you usually tend to see 4 or 5 times by year. So then your brain is trained to overlook the mistakes. So it is always nicer that some of your friend goes through your presentation, especially if it is a big presentation in a bigger forum. In any PowerPoint presentation, especially in a bigger forum, time management is extremely essential. I said that death to those who run over time. It shows they are rude and egotistical. So you always need to manage your time. It suggests a lack of preparation and experience. And never squeeze a 30-minute talk into a 20-minute slot. If you just rapid fire, nobody will understand. It's suggested that every slide should be given at least 30 seconds. So if you are given 15-minute presentation, don't make PowerPoint slide more than 30. The ideal would be to make 20 or 22, so that you can relax and tell your information very slowly. A seriously under time talk is also embarrassing. Somebody has really valued you and given you 20 minutes to talk, and if you finish the entire presentation in 10 minutes, it's embarrassing, also insulting to the host. So you need to time this carefully. Now let's go about preparing slide. Leonardo da Vinci said simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication, and this is taken from one of the bathrooms, toilet. Even if you are in a rush, please don't forget to flush. Even if you have to make your slides in a hurry, certain things you should not, cut short. You will regret later. So these two things should be remembered. So aim of making good slide is transformation of the information you want to deliver in an entertaining and inspiring way, and it must be chosen and presented with care. There are two sentences which are worth mentioning here. One is, "Well done slides won't rescue a bad paper." If your whole research or the content is useless, then no matter how good your slides are, it will not rescue. But poor slides ruin a brilliantly executed research, and this is really bad. After so much of blood, sweat, and tears, you could not present well, and nobody takes your paper seriously. That is really a disaster. For each slide, redo or discard if it doesn't relate to the material of your talk. You are talking something else and you present something that doesn't go. And the graphic quality is unacceptable. You have to show good quality. So these two things you remember, and then your presentation is going to be good. Here is an example of a copy and paste slide on simplicity. Somebody has been asked to make a presentation on simplicity, and the slide is like this. It's too busy, very small font. The person has not even bothered to remove the hyperlink. This is very bad. So the moment you display this slide, half of the audience from the hall are going to get out of the room. So we should not do this at all. So every slide should have a short title and limit one slide to one information. In one slide, you should not have clinical presentation, diagnosis, imaging, treatment. No, one slide should have at least one information, and a rule of six. In every slide there should not be more than six bullet, and as far as possible, it's not 100%. As far as possible, there should not be more than 7 words in bullet. So you try to stick to this, and left justify leaving the right margins ragged so that it is easier to read, and the projected information should fill the whole screen. Even if you have only 2 or 3 bullets, then you try to make them bigger so that it fills the whole screen. It looks much better to the eye. Regarding the background, use color for effective visual impact, but resist the temptation to over colorize and avoid black letters on deep blue, green, or red. And 10% of the male population is color blind. Usually red and green is the combination. So try to avoid red and green color as far as possible, and always be consistent with the background. See, this is an example of a bad background. Too much colorize and it won't contrast well with the letter you write. Avoid background that are difficult to read from. How about the font color? Use a color that contrasts sharply with the background. For example, white font on black background or white font on blue background, as in this presentation. Use color to emphasize a point, but only use this occasionally. If you over colorize, then it distracts the audience. So these are the examples. Using color for decoration is bad. Using a different color for each point. Using a different color for secondary points. Using a font color not contrasting with the background color, or trying to be too creative. You don't be a slave of your own artistic fantasies. This platform is not to be like this. The platform PowerPoint presentation is to deliver the content and try to change the attitude of the listener, not to show your artistic fantasies. Regarding the font type, choose a font that is easy to read. For example, use a standard font like sans serif, Arial, or Tahoma, Calibri, Franklin, Gothic Book, etc. And don't use a complicated font, and stick with one type of font for your one presentation, one PowerPoint presentation. Use one, so otherwise the audience will be distracted. Regarding the font size, use at least an 18-point font throughout. Your audience won't be able to read smaller fonts. Bigger the better. For title, anything, even the smallest font should be more than 28 points. For the same bulleted item, use more than 22 points, and use different size for the main and secondary points. It's visually pleasing to look. Regarding whether you use numbers or bullet, here is the recommendation. Use bullets to show a list without priority, sequence, or hierarchy. But you use number when there is priority, sequence, and hierarchy. If somebody asks question, how do you put an elephant into a refrigerator? Famous riddle to child. Then this is how you do it. Open the door, put the elephant in, and close the door. This is the really number thing. So number and bullet, not much confusion. Regarding illustration, animation, and picture, don't put only text on in your slide. It will be very boring. Pictures and graphics are processed 60,000 times faster than text. So if somebody asks you what a CT scan is, then somebody describes like this, it is very hard to understand what is a CT scan machine is. But the moment you show this picture, the person will immediately understand what it is. So when you have the opportunity to use picture instead of text, use it. Another aspect is graphics quickly affect our emotions. If you want to portray somebody, pictures are always better. Our emotions greatly affect our decision making. This was the picture. This was taken from Setopati, Batoma Janmeki Kalpana Maile पनि दुईटा फुच्चा हैन is the woman going to the health post or the nearest health center to deliver, and then she deliver two babies on the way to the hospital. Very emotional. So when you put picture, then automatically the changing the emotion is faster. Pixar animation, it can be a four also. If you are not at Pixar or Disney, like if you use this kind of animation which has nothing to do with your content, it can be very annoying. Another example is this, there is no point displaying this animation if it doesn't relate to your presentation. Now let's talk about the delivery. Studies on communication have shown that 55% of the communication happens from facial expression and other body languages, 33% from the vocal quality or tone of your voice, and only 7% from the actual meaning of the word. You need to remember this information and then act accordingly while you are presenting. So, delivery, what are the things you should avoid? Are you hiding behind the podium, or are you slouching? If the persons are not, the audience doesn't see you, then it might appear as if ghost is speaking, that you should avoid. Next, are your hands or face motionless? You have to show some gestures so that you have to show to your audience that you yourself is enjoying the presentation. Are your hands inside your pocket? You should not put your hands inside the pocket. This thing. Are you standing at your boss laptop screen or sitting? That shows that you are very nervous. Are you reading your slide like a script? And if you want to do that, you could have just printed the PowerPoint and handed it out to you. Of course, you don't want that. Eye contact is the best way to monitor how audience is responding to your talk. Smile is considered to be the second best thing you can do with your lips, and the happy smile conveys the sincere happiness of being able to communicate well, and also suggests that you are also enjoying your presentation. Once in a while, you have to inject humor, but carefully. And you need to know this. Never make jokes about gender, race, ethnicity, and religion. Very dangerous. You don't make that. Other things you can do, and then make them awake, if your presentation is long. Revise always, this is the Blaise Pascal's letter to his girlfriend. I would have written a shorter letter, but I did not have time. This is such a, unless you revise your presentation, it's not going to be great. There will always be something that needs revision. After a successful presentation, there will be a question and answer session. This is usually moderated by either a moderator or by chairpersons, but still you need to be well prepared for this part as well. Don't start the answer with I think. In this particular presentation, you are the expert, so you should be confident in what you are saying. But that confidence comes when you are well versed with the content of your presentation. And you should be aware of danger of giving the wrong answer. Do not cook up the data and answer. You will regret that later. And while answering, you choose few but precise words and don't make the answer long. There is a risk of you being very vague and sometimes giving wrong information. Don't answer unrelated question. There might be somebody in the audience who wants to pull your leg. All you need to say is you are not expert in this particular field and beyond the scope of the today's presentation. Don't hesitate to say I don't know. You are not expected to know everything under the sun. And this is my concluding slide. In 2014, Nepalese made a huge human flag in Tundikhel, and it was a really fascinating thing to watch. But it involved a lot of effort and planning. Same thing in making a great PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't happen, you have 4 hours. You cannot make great 30 slide PowerPoint presentation. It needs time, but if you do with some efforts, we can create beautiful things. I hope the information provided in this video is of help to you in your next PowerPoint presentation. I hope to see you in next video. Bye.